Hello, my dear friends. How are you? It's very cold outside, so it's a good idea to stay indoors with a cup of hot something and a good book to read. Cheers. Today I've got a question for you all. How do you read? And how do you give your reading any meaning? Is it easy to understand the text you read? What do you read? It's a lot of questions, more than one. And today we shall devote our video to the study of intertextuality. What is intertextuality? Let's provide a definition. Post-structuralist scholars decided to say that intertextuality is the way in which meaning within a text is related to other texts. That is to say, based on de Saussure's ideas about meaning in language, you know that meaning is not fixed, but when something has been given a meaning, it is arbitrary, and it doesn't just depend on itself, but it depends on the meanings of other things. So it is not only what it means, but what it doesn't mean. In the case of texts, something very similar happens. When you're reading a text, it will happen to you that you immediately relate the text to something, or you identify something that it does not resemble, differences and similarities. Therefore, the text is kind of trespassed by a number of other texts and other influences that come from the reader's mind. Sometimes this influence is overt and sometimes it's covered. What's the meaning of that? When it's overt, it means that within the text you will find a reference to another text. When it is covered, you will not see the printed word directly, but you will immediately relate a phrase, a word, or a passage to some other text. Now that we talk about all this, I shall provide a clear example of this in the next video with a comparison between a ballad, the Trois Courbes, and a poem, The Raven, by Edgar Allan Poe. I hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye. Hello, my friends. In this video, I would like to introduce you to one of the ways in which you can perform intertextuality, a comparison and contrast between two wonderful pieces. One of them is the Trois Courbes, an ancient ballad, and the other one is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. We shall see points of coincidence and differences. I hope you enjoy it. Now, let's talk about the points of coincidence. Think about the animal. What sort of an animal is a raven? Usually we relate it to death, because a raven eats carrion. But they cling, so there are two sides to these animals. Their aspect is a bit spooky. And in this case, in the ballad we've got two of them, and in the raven we've got one. In the ballad, the two crows talk to each other, so somehow they are animated, as in the personification in the fables. In the raven, it can talk, and it enters an argument with a persona. He even has a name. The name is Nevermore. If we go now to the people, in the ballad, we've got a knight. He is dead, and he has been abandoned by his friends and his family. Actually, he's probably beginning to rotten. His corpse lies still, and the ravens are about to eat him. In the raven, we've got a persona, or the alter ego of the author, who has been abandoned by the lost Lenore. And in this case, even though he is alive, he is willing to let himself die because of sorrow. The themes in common are death, loneliness, loss, and sorrow. Let's talk about differences now. The differences in structure between the ballad and the poem are very simple to see, and we shall not enter that discussion. But let's talk about the narrator or the persona. In the ballad, there is an external narrator who starts talking about the tale, and then there are two animals who discuss with each other. It contains an implicit moral for the audience to think about and reflect. Now, in the poem, the persona, or the alter ego of the author, explores through a powerful insight and the use of drugs his feelings and emotions with a psychological depth that is astounding. It leads the reader to think about his own emotions and feelings. And there's a bonus. There is another intertext between the raven and Greek mythology when Pallas is mentioned. Hey, I hope the comparison has been clear to you. Cheers. Now that you've seen the concept of intertext in action, I would like to go a bit further. Let's talk about Roland Barthes. He was a critic and a scholar who proposed in 1977 the idea that once the work is published, the author is dead. What's the meaning of that? Okay, the meaning of that is that right now you're listening to a dead person. You're talking to a zombie or a corpse, or you're listening more than talking, because I'm the one talking. But as I've published a few things, then I am dead. Whoa. Okay, that's not the meaning literally. The meaning is that once the work is published, when it comes to your hands as a reader, when it enters your home as audiovisual material, as a song, or anything else, you take the piece and you own it and you apply your background knowledge into the piece. What he said was that before, the basis of meaning in a text was only attributed to the author himself, and nobody else could say what the text meant but the author. Which is a bit of a straitjacket, is it? Because if you're reading and you cannot give your opinion on the text, then it would be not only boring, but how do I go back in time and ask Poe what he meant in The Raven? How do I do that? And where is the author of the Trois Corbees? Was it a group activity? Who wrote it? So what do? We sit back, we relax, we have a drink, and we understand that we can give meaning to a text as we read it. We can give meaning to a movie as we watch it. You can give meaning to this video as you're watching it. You can even talk to me right now. I'm not listening anyway, but you can do anything you want, because you are a person with a brain, with ideas, and with background knowledge. Therefore, Roland Barthes meant to give the reader or the audience a part in the piece they are watching, reading. And there's something else we should bear in mind, because as we said before, meaning is not fixed, and it can't be defined by what the piece is in itself, but according to other texts. So what happens with the media? What happens with the internet? Think about the hypertext. If you surf in one of these new encyclopedias, electronic encyclopedias, and then you click on a word which opens onto a new definition, and at the same time that one opens onto a picture or to a new definition, that is the idea of intertext. Everything is intertwined and interrelated. We talked about the function of ballads, sonnets, how they can be turned into songs. What about the raven? Do you think the raven could be turned into a song? I've got this one for you. Check Omnia's version of The Raven. It's absolutely brilliant. For me, I love it. I really love it. So that would be an intertext. This being said, and without further ado, I also recommend that you could read Mikhail Bakhtin's and Julia Kristeva's work on intertext. It's very interesting. So, hope you have enjoyed, kids. See you next time. Bye-bye.